Welcome to They Cast from the Coast.
Welcome, everybody, to They Cast from the Coast, the horror-centric podcast with a little bit of sci-fi and action thrown in for flavor. My name's Adam Miles, and with me, to my virtual left, as always, we have Tim, the mother of dragons, Johnson. You knew that was coming, didn't you?
Actually, I totally forgot until you said it.
How you doing, Tim?
I'm good now, thank you.
You're welcome, man.
Hello, Internet. Hello.
Hello. Excellent.
Wow.
Excellent. There you go. Moving around the table, we have the other Miles guy, Dave. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, not much. Looking forward to tonight's show. We got another good show that we're going to give you guys tonight. So, keeping with our theme of a December to Dismember, we have another holiday treat for all the listeners tonight. So, looking forward to it.
That's right.
Over to you, Adam.
Yeah, exactly. So that's right. Tonight is our December to Dismember. Part 2. Well, if it's part 2, would it be the return, the revenge? What would it be?
I think at this point it's probably just the return.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so December to Dismember, the return. No, we can't do that. It's not an episodic thing. Next year will be a December to Dismember, the return.
There you go.
This all should have been discussed off the podcast.
This all
Very
should have
unprofessional, guys. Very unprofessional.
Who the hell said we were professional? What are you talking about, Tim?
Exactly.
Get lost.
If I knew that this was the type of professionalism I was going to be dealing with,
The day I get a paycheck for this, then we'll start talking professionalism and talking off mic.
touche, Dave. Touche.
Touche. That's right. Excellent. So, let's do a little bit of a round table here. Tim, how's your week been, buddy?
It has been okay. I've been busy editing a bunch of YouTube videos because we have also over on our Geeks Speak page a Christmas thing that's going to be coming out on actual Christmas Day. It will be the 12 Days of Christmas, kinda, where we're actually analyzing and reviewing non-traditional Christmas movies.
Really?
Yes,
Well,
so we're going through the list of the Die Hards and Lethal Weapon and a bunch of movies like that.
You totally missed an opportunity, though, right? You want to talk about stuff to discuss behind the scenes and off another one. Why wasn't it the 12 Days of Geekmas or some play on words?
I don't know. Just trying to keep it simple, I guess.
Okay, keep it simple.
I thought the whole, Red Band Review presents the 12 Days of Christmas, kinda, was all right.
Yeah, all right.
I
That
like
sounds
it,
good.
Tim. I like it.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Yeah, I like it too. Come on, it's fine. It's good. Oh well, it's all good. So you've been spending, yeah, but I'm being a jerk. So you've been spending your week doing that, just piddling around.
And watching some movies. I watched the movie that we're going to be talking about tonight this morning. And have you guys ever seen? And everybody keeps recommending it to me, and I watched it last night because I am such a huge Kurt Russell fan.
Mm-hmm.
Bone Tomahawk.
Oh
yes.
yeah.
What?
Oh my
amazing.
god, that movie blew my fucking mind. I'm not even gonna lie to you. A couple months back when I was at HMV, I ended up buying Escape from New York and I was on a John Carpenter kick. Escape from New York, Halloween, and Big Trouble in Little China, all on Blu-ray. And The Thing, all on Blu-ray. And the clerk's like, have you seen like his new movie? And I was like, what one? And I thought he was talking about The Hateful Eight because, you know, he's awesome in that.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. Called Bone Tomahawk. And I was like, Bone Tomahawk? So, you know, I've been hearing all these rave reviews for it, and I watched it last night for the first time, and it was awesome. It was so awesome. It took a little bit of a slow approach, but once it got going, and I kind of like those kind of immersive movies where, you know, it was kind of boring back then, so the movie was kind of boring. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
once it got going, I loved it.
Oh, it was a great movie. Fantastic flick. It came out of left field. I pretty much everybody who... And like you were saying, though, it kind of came out around the same time as Hateful Eight, so a lot of people were kind of thinking the same thing. Like, what do you mean his new movie, right? When I watched it, it was purely based on recommendation of a bunch of people that basically said, have you seen this new movie? And I hadn't heard of it at the time. And yeah, I agree. The ending was just... Like I literally, I was almost jaw on the floor. I was like, "No way!"
Yeah,
it was
and it's
great.
just the action set pieces and the gory special effects that they were able to pull off.
Yeah.
Like it was just at the end, it felt like a horror movie.
Oh, especially with the friggin' ordeal that he goes through. Holy shit!
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was really good. I recommend it to all our listeners.
Bone Tomahawk.
There you go. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
Yeah, no.
Highly recommended.
But that's what I've been doing. I've been watching movies and editing YouTube videos. Not much of a life.
Not much of a life, but here we are, and you're keeping up with the media and doing your thing and working it.
I'm having. You know what? I'm having fun.
That's good. That's the point.
Doing what I want to do.
Yeah, that's exactly. Dave,
Hey.
how's your week been going, man? What have you been up to?
Yeah, it's good, man. It's been busy, though. This is another one of those weeks that just kind of got away from me. I have no idea where the past 7 days went. It's a little disturbing, actually.
Abducted by aliens?
Yeah, it must have been. I was just trying to think earlier, like, what have I watched this week? And I'm drawing a blank. I have not even caught up on The Walking Dead for this week. I think the only notable thing that I've watched was the season finale to Westworld, which was phenomenal. If you guys haven't caught up on that yet, highly recommended.
Yep.
Yeah, I've just been nose to the grindstone. I've been doing some video editing aside from my normal work day. Just working with the local theater group here, trying to finish up some spotlight videos that we're coming up with to highlight some of the cast and crew on some upcoming plays that they've got going on. So we're kind of creating a whole spotlight series of videos to highlight the upcoming talent. So I've been kind of nose to the grindstone working on that after hours and trying to get some of that finished up. So yeah, I think that's pretty much where a majority of my time went. As far as movies, I hadn't watched tonight's movie in a number of years, so I got a chance to catch up on that, so that'd be at least somewhat knowledgeable tonight in our discussion. But yeah, that's about it. Looking forward to tonight's discussion.
Excellent. Yeah. No, I'm pretty much in the same boat. I have not seen this movie that we're going to talk about tonight in quite a few years. The only things that I really truly remembered from this movie had to do with the opening sequence. I remember really liking it and just kind of remembering that this was one of the few movies that from the 80s and that time period of horror where they really kind of played out a progression to somebody's insanity or murder spree. You know, like we had talked about before in a lot of movies, and we'll get into this there. Normally it was just kind of like he had a motive and it was briefly explained, or it was explained during the process. This was one of those movies, and I remember liking that. So
Good call. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we'll get more in depth into that as we get into the actual topic of the movie, but I recall that being something that really stuck with me. So I sat down and I watched this movie again last night, and I got to tell you, I was partially writing a couple things and I was watching the movie, and by the end of the movie, the iPad was down and I was just glued to the screen. And at the very end of it, I was like, wow, I forgot a lot about that movie. But it holds up, in my opinion. It is a great movie, Fantastic Fair. So I can't wait to discuss it tonight with you guys.
Well, why don't we announce what we're doing? Dave, what are we talking about tonight?
Dave.
Sounds good. Tonight we are talking about Silent Night, Deadly Night, the original 1984 classic that caused a media shitstorm back in the day and was actually pulled from theaters after its first week just because of the controversy around a killer Santa Claus.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing movie.
And we got some good trivia on that later on, too, which is great.
Yeah, and you know what? And like you said, Adam, it still holds up today. The way it was filmed, the story, the visuals. I mean, it is like so many movies, you know, in that era, like the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And I've mentioned this before in conversations with people. It's like, take a look at the original Death Wish movie and Death Wish 2 with Charles Bronson. Like those movies, I've watched them again recently over the years, and I would compare it to Silent Night, Deadly Night, where there are some acts of extreme violence being shown on screen, much different than acts of extreme violence that we see today. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
You know, it's just violence towards women. I mean, to the extreme. But you know, stuff we're going to talk about shortly. You know,
I don't know why I found that funny, but like to the extreme.
Yeah, to the extreme.
That's how I heard you say it.
That's pretty much how we did say it. So you know,
it's coming through to the extreme. Stay tuned.
Exactly. No, it was good. So yeah, so I watched the movie. I caught up on The Walking Dead from last week, and I caught up on Ash vs. the Evil Dead from last week. So
did you watch last night's though?
I did not. No, I know. I can't. I gotta watch it tonight or tomorrow. Something gotta get my fix. I mean, you got the first half season ender for Walking Dead, and you've got the season finale of Ash vs. Evil Dead, and you know, last week's episode plays directly into this week, and last week's episode blew my friggin' mind. So I can't wait. So it'll be good. But the only other thing that I'll say that I did this week, which I thoroughly had an absolute friggin' blast with, and I posted this on Facebook, and a bunch of people were commenting about it. Xbox One. And we've talked about this before. I'm an Xbox One.
Ooh, no, I'm kidding.
Shut up. Finally got the full released demo for Resident Evil 7. And I downloaded it because I had the opportunity to play it. So I downloaded it, installed it, updated my Xbox, did everything, getting ready for it, sat down, you know, water beside me, and in the chair, pulled it up to the TV, played the demo. Blew my damn mind. The demo was amazing. The graphics are incredible. The atmosphere is just without compare, in my opinion.
How much game time was the demo?
So this is where it gets interesting. So if you just play through the demo without doing anything extra, there's a whole shit ton of stuff that you can do. If you just play through the demo without doing anything extra, it's like 15 to 20 minutes tops. However, that's getting what they call the shitty ending. Like there's the bad ending, and it basically nothing fancy happens. I beat the game like 6 times trying to unlock different ways of doing things, because what would happen is you'd be going through the demo and you'd beat it and you go, well, shit, I picked up something and I never got a chance to use it. There's got to be a way to use it. So you go back and you ended up playing it again and again and again. And like I said, I went through it about 6 times, but 6 times being like all friggin' day I was playing this damn demo. And I still haven't unlocked all the endings and all of the items from this. And it got to the point where I had gotten like 3 different endings. And there was still a couple things that I had not even used in this game. And I went on YouTube and I was like, okay, secret endings, Resident Evil 7 demo. And there was this hour-long video of this guy explaining how to accomplish the very, very final ending to release it. And it took him an hour to do it. But it was very detailed. It was like, go here, do this, look at this, crouch down here, do this in this order, then go back, go in here, and it was just like, the guy has printed instructions because it's almost impossible to remember how the hell to do this. And even then, in the video that I watched was probably only about a week old, they were still unaware as to what things on the list truly had 100% effect on the outcome of that, because it takes so long to do it. Nobody had kind of gone and said, okay, well, what if I don't do this in this exact order? You know what I mean? It was all just kind of played out for the fact that somebody had accomplished it and they documented step by step how they did it. And it blew my mind. There's still so much to do in this demo, but the game itself, I'm there. This and Friday the 13th and all the other shit that's coming out. It's going to be a good year for horror games, and I'm stoked. I am absolutely excited for it. So I will be picking it up as soon as I possibly can. I think it's January 24th or something like this. It gets released.
Oh, nice. So it's literally like next month.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, if you haven't played the demo for this, it's out on PS4, Xbox, Windows, PC. Check out the demo, get it downloaded, realize that if you only played it for about 15 minutes and it'll tell you got the bad ending, that there's a shit ton more that you can be doing, and you gotta really take a look around. It's really good. So
I'll check that out when I'm done talking to you guys.
Excellent. I know Anthony would love it. Anthony would love it, man. Yeah. That's for sure. So that was my week in a nutshell. Nothing really exciting, and all of a sudden Resident Evil 7, everybody's happy. So yeah. So nice. With that, we have the second episode in our 2016 December to Dismember. Thank you, Tim. Thank you. No, that's perfect. It's like, I should be doing these little cue type voices, and all of a sudden Tim and David just add shit, It's like, let's do that again. December to Dismember. See? That's perfect. All right, Tim?
Sorry.
Couldn't help it. No. So we did a really nice lead-in last week. A lot of positive response for that. People really liked it.
I know. How are we going to live up to it this week?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe in honor of the holiday season and Christmas that is coming forth. It's coming. It's a couple weeks away if you did not know this by now. One of the biggest things about Christmas has to do with gifting. Obviously, gifts for loved ones, gift for geeks, gift for horror fanatics, gifts. It's also about the giving, not necessarily the receiving. So I think we'll lead into tonight's episode by talking a little bit about 2 things. 1, things that we've received, collectibles, toys, and they don't necessarily have to be over Christmas time. I know that this is kind of a Christmas special, but talk about for a minute horror collectibles. What do you got in your collection? What are you very proud of? What do you got? And on the other side of that, we'll talk about not necessarily the horror collectibles that you've received outside of Christmas, but anything that you might have given or received during Christmas. The same idea. Toys, collectibles, movies, stuff that you're proud of, stuff like that. And let's just kind of add the horror flair to the thought of giving during this time of year. Dave, Haha, see, I did it again. I'm going that way around.
Oh,
I know. Tim,
kidding.
this gives you a chance to think about it.
I know, right?
That's right. Dave,
Hey.
tell us some stuff, man. Tell us some stuff. Christmas time is upon us, horror-wise. What have you gotten? Oh, let's add a third thing to this. Let's do this real quick. What have you been looking at that you would love to have?
Ooh.
Oh, see, there's all this awesome stuff that comes out every year. What have you seen that you would have loved to have this year? So Dave,
And
start
this
off.
This is in relation to horror collectibles.
Yes,
this
horror,
is what-
man, horror.
All right. Well, geez, you're making things complicated, man. There's like 3 things I got to talk about here. Like,
Okay, well let's
holy jumping.
combine 1 and 2. Horror collectibles received and given, and then what have you seen that you would like?
Well, horror collectibles received and given Christmas last year, actually, and this is a great example. For Christmas last year, my wonderful wife surprised me with a model of 1983's Christine.
Nice.
So I've unfortunately yet to put this together. I somehow need to find a workbench or clear off some sort of area in my office that I can actually spread everything out and work on it. But I have a model that I can put together and paint and glue together of John Carpenter's Christine. So it's the model of the car from the movie. So that's tops of my list right now that I need to work on, and I got that last year for Christmas. So super excited.
Now let me just intervene here for 2 seconds. Remember, if you got something else you want to talk about, that's cool, because it doesn't have to be around Christmas. I'm just thinking the
Absolutely.
thought of. So yes. What
Yep.
else you got?
Well, I've got 2 shelves in my rec room of collectible pieces, just everything and anything. I've got an 18-inch Freddy Krueger that it was one of the McFarlane Movie Maniacs, one of the 18-inch ones that he had come out with probably about a decade ago. And it's got the little sound activation thing, that motion activation when you walk by. He says, in that Freddy Krueger voice, "No running in the hallways." Used to always scare the crap out of my kids when they were younger. It still kind of freaks them out a little bit, but
Nice.
that's the fun part. That's probably the prize to my collection. But I mean, I've got all kinds of little trinkets and stuff. I've got little, Funko Pop vinyls of Ash and Chucky, and I've got a bunch of the original McFarlane Movie Maniacs. I've got Norman Bates, and I've got Snake Plissken from Escape from New York or Escape from LA, and I've got The Fly, the David Cronenberg remake, and I've got the Ghostface Killer from Scream, and I've got like 2 shelves full of all kinds of stuff like that. I've got a signed Fangoria magazine, from Don Shanks, the Halloween 5 cover. I got him to sign it from Summer Fear last year. So I've got tons of collectibles on my shelf. I even have a Friday the 13th hockey mask signed by Kane Hodder when I met him at a Summer Fear a couple of years ago. So, yeah, I got a lot of really cool stuff that certainly I've bought myself over the years, or things that I've had that I've had signed by celebrities, as well as my wife knows I'm a geek, and sometimes if she's just out and about, she may see something that, Dave would like that, and she'll surprise me. I come home and, there's a new little character. For my birthday this past year, she actually bought me a Evil Dead 2 Ash. That's the, what did they call it? It's the... It's kind of like a sepia color. It's kind of like black and whitish, where it's the end of the movie when he's back in time, and they're all hailing him as the hail he who has come from the skies to deliver us, from the terrors of the Deadites. Yeah, they actually have a model out of Ash. From the end of the movie, he's got the white streak in his hair, and he's it's the color tone. It was like a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive from Nika, and she bought me that for my birthday. So that's up there as well as one of the super cool gifts. So
Nice.
yeah, I got lots of little trinkets and collectibles like that. So, and I proudly display them on my shelf.
Nice. So what have you seen this year that you would love as a horror geek to obtain?
Well, there are a number of little collectible things. Recently, I actually saw, and I can't remember if it was Nika or if it was another company that released it, but they've got. I don't have a really good. I don't think I have any figures of Jason Voorhees.
Ooh.
So recently, I saw. Again, I think it was Nika is releasing or has released a Jason figure from Friday the 13th Part 3. So he's got, like, as far as I'm concerned, the best looking Jason, right? With the outfit and it's just that iconic look, right, of Jason. Anyway, they're releasing, or they have released that character of Jason in like a special edition. So I've got my eye on him. It's pretty cool.
Very nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool indeed. Yeah, no, I did see that one. That one's great. And they just released the Part 3 mask itself. I think it was Nika put it out too. Special edition mask that you can just get off the shelf too. It's pretty cool.
That's neat.
Love it. Tim.
Yes, sir.
Talk to me.
I get to talk?
You get to talk. It's Tim's time. Tim's time to talk.
Most of my collectibles are not necessarily horror. Mine are mostly Star Wars and Batman.
Well, of course.
But what I do have of horror, I do have a bunch of the Funko Pop vinyl. I got a bunch of Walking Dead. I am on the lookout for the because I was going to buy them all Halloween time, but they had Freddy, Jason, Mike as the Funko Pops. So that's what I want to get. But I say the coolest thing I have in my collection right now that was given to me for Christmas. I don't know how horror-ish you can. It's a horror. I got a gizmo from Gremlins.
Nice.
That you push the button on the back, and he does the little sway side to side and hums his little song. So I got that from my brother for Christmas, because when we were kids, he threw my Gizmo stuffed animal in the garbage, and I never fully recovered from it. So
you're doing better now, though.
I am. Therapy helps. Therapy helps.
Therapy helps.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
And being a geek,
Yes.
what have you seen that you would love?
Oh my God. Okay, well, there has been I love masks. Like, I love masks. And what I'm actually looking into right now, I'm in the market for, is I want to get a replica of a Generation 1 Michael Myers mask from Halloween. That's what I want.
Wow.
I want that. I've had my eye on a couple different websites. They all claim to be using the original, like copies of the original mold, but some of them don't look as right as far as the hair or the paint application. So I'm doing my research, because if I'm going to spend all this money on a mask, I want it to be as close to the original movie accurate mask as possible. Aside from that, the other thing that I'm looking at is the Halloween The Complete Blu-ray Collection that got released back in September, I believe, which is like a 15-disc set of like every Halloween movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the box art is amazing. I really, really want it.
Yeah, that's a thing of beauty, that one is. That is definitely a thing of beauty.
Yeah, so chances are I'll probably buy it for myself for Christmas.
That's what we do. We're adults. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Exactly. Make sure you get the the deluxe edition though that includes the Halloween producer's cut.
Yeah.
Because there's two versions of it.
That is the one that I'm looking at.
Nice.
On a side note, I don't know if you guys see them, but I've recently become obsessed with. They're made also by Funko. They're the reaction figures.
Oh yes.
Where they look like the classic Star Wars figures, but it's a bunch of lines that obviously they wouldn't have made toys from back in the 70s and 80s. But I put a bid on a Mike Myers, a Jason, and a Freddy, and I already own Snake Plissken from both Escape from New York and Escape from LA. I own a Ripley. I own an alien or a xenomorph. I'm obsessed with these figures.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool figures, man. That's for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I like those.
So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now, because I mean everything that I really want, it's way too much money.
Yeah, I know. Trust
way
me.
Too much money. I want stormtrooper armor, like movie
Yes.
accurate stormtrooper armor, and
Yes.
I want a Millennium Falcon. I don't care what size. I want a Millennium Falcon.
Nice. Some good thoughts. So, in my collection, I got a lot of the same stuff as you guys probably would from being at your summer fairs, up in Tedemagush. Got my posters signed. I love those. I love my mask, Jason Voorhees. But all in all, now this is going to sound kind of weird. The two pieces that I'm very most proud of in my collection. One is a button. Now, Dave, you're going to think about this for a second.
A button.
My brother, David, went to a Fangoria Weekend of Horrors.
Oh, yeah.
And you came back with two things for me. You came back with a t-shirt for me. The t-shirt was Dawn of the Dead. It was a fantastic t-shirt.
Rotten cotton.
Yeah, rotten cotton. It was an actual rotten cotton t-shirt. I wore the shit out of it, and it became pretty holy after a few years. The second thing, as simple as it sounds, was at the time Alexandra Aja was promoting Haute Tension. And they were getting ready to release the movie, and they had something going on at that Weekend of Horrors. And you came back with some swag from it, and one of them was just a simple button. And you gave me the button.
Yep,
and
I remember that. Yep.
As soon as the movie came out, I bought it because I'd heard so much about it, and it became instantly one of my favorite of the French Extreme movies. And it started a love of all things Aja when it comes to these movies. And the button has sat in that case the entire time.
Nice.
And I've never gotten rid of it. It's never left my sight. And this thing is just because it came from the Weekend of Horrors. My brother got it for me. It was a great movie. It was just, there was something connecting to it. Now, the second thing. Now, this is going to sound a little bit corny too. But Tim.
What?
On my wall, I have this absolutely amazing 5-piece set of hand-drawn art.
Oh, you're considering my stuff your collectible?
Dude, you would not believe the amount of people who walk into this house and see this and go, holy shit, that's amazing. Where'd you get that? And I said, my friend drew it. And they're like, no. And then they get up close and they see the little smudging and they see, the pencil marks, and they're like, holy shit. Right? This thing is a masterpiece hanging on my wall. And it's
Thank you. You just made my night. Thank you.
You're welcome, man. I mean, it's just, you know what? It's a great part of the collection. It's a great part of the collection.
It's great stuff, man. Actually, I was over there and I'm looking at it going, man, where did you get that? Where did you pick up? Where did you pick that up? And Adam's laughing, and I'm looking at it, and I'm admiring it, and I'm like, man, this is really good. Like, this is some professional stuff. He goes, oh, Tim gave it to me. I'm like, what? I had no idea, man. It was awesome. I was standing there just ogling at it on the wall.
Yep.
It's good stuff.
So,
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, no worries. No, thank you. So, on top of that, I'd say when it comes to the ultimate thing that I'd be looking at, I'm huge on the thought of weaponry. Right now, I love the idea of weaponry, just in general. If I had my choice, it'd be one of three things that I'd be getting this year. One, Adam Green put out limited edition Victor Crowley axes. As weird as that's... Yes.
Really?
And they were all like signed and shit, and they were movie accurate replicas from what they used in the very first Hatchet movie. And they were limited run, but they were freaking awesome, and they were like blood splattered and everything. They were beautiful.
Were they real axes though?
I don't know, to tell you the truth.
Or were they like, like a prop?
I think they were a prop.
I mean, not that it matters. I mean, I honestly don't think if you ordered one and it was just a question.
But I don't know the actual answer, but they looked beautiful. 2, Nika put out this amazing replica of Lucille. I want Lucille on my wall. You know what I mean?
That would be cool.
Negan's bat. Awesome. Negan's bat on the wall. That'd be awesome. 3, a saber forge. Some sort of a custom hilt, or I want to upgrade. I have an Ultimate Effects Darth Vader lightsaber, and the handle is absolutely atrocious on these things, but I love it because the kids walk in the room and I'm like smacking them with it, not really hitting them with it, but just hitting them on the arm or the leg as they're walking by. Oh, Dad, tee, right?
Which one is it that you have?
I have it was the Walmart branded Ultimate Effects lightsaber.
Oh, it was like, it's plastic?
Yeah, it's absolutely plastic.
Okay. Because I thought you were talking about the Force Effects lightsaber, and I'm like, that's the one I have, a Darth Vader, and it's amazing.
No. That's true. Yes, the Force Effects ones would be, but this is the Ultimate Effects one. And gotcha. It was like the Walmart type of branded one, but the actual, the electronics inside and the lighting and everything else about it and the sensors, fantastic. But the handle is like twice the size it needs to be.
Yeah.
And it's atrocious to hold on to. So I had been piddling around with the fact of making my own hilt or trying to obtain a hilt and stuff this, all the guts into it.
Well, there was, I know a couple years ago they released a build your own lightsaber toy where you could build a combination, I think of as like 50 different lightsaber hilts, and it came with a blade and all this kind of stuff with all these loose plastic, silver, like plastic chrome colored pieces. You could probably get it really cheap if you wanted to, kind of custom your own plastic lightsaber. But if you're looking for more of machine tooled chrome,
yeah, I'll be keeping my eye out. The other thing, the reason why that really came up for me too is because I was at the comic book store up in Sackville that I go to all the time, Cape and Cowell, and on the window he had posted that they've got a lightsaber dueling academy that's opening up in Halifax. So you could go and you can learn the techniques behind lightsaber dueling. I was like, damn, I want to learn the lightsaber duel because I already do martial arts. And I was thinking to myself, there's a couple of tournaments that we go to where they have weapons. Yeah. And generally speaking, in Taekwondo, you don't do weapons. But if there was something that I could do on the side and come up with a nice pattern or form and work it out that I use a lightsaber, that's a gold medal. That's a gold medal.
That was the geekiest, most awesome thing I think I've ever heard you say, Adam. That was...
Thank you. I take pride in that.
Like you lost me for a minute and then you brought me right back.
That's what I do, Tim. That's what I do.
It is.
So that's pretty cool. That's a good topic of conversation. And that, you know what, folks? That right there, unless there's anything anybody else has to say, Dave, Tim, anything else to add?
No, there's just so, I have so many collectible things that on the spot I'm not, unless I'm looking at them, I completely forgot. I don't know. I mean, I got a bunch of signed stuff. I got horror, from Summer Fear, a bunch of signatures from that, and I got Darth Vader's signature.
Oh yeah, David Prowse. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I do. I got Ray Park, Darth Maul's signature.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, with that, I say this is a good place. We'll take a quick break. And when we come back, we will continue with the discussion on the December to Dismember. Yeah. Coming back in a minute, guys.
Dead Girl Superstar, Living Dead Pinups, a unique spin on the traditional pinup with a zombie twist. The official apparel of They Cast from the Coast. T-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and more. The official store, www.society6.com/misunderstood art company. A must-have to zombify your apocalypse. Make sure to follow us on Facebook. Dead Girl Superstar from Misunderstood Art Company. Spread the dead.
Was the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. You've made it through Halloween. Now try and survive Christmas. Silent night. Deadly night.
And we're back. So, tonight's special movie for the second episode of They Cast from the Coast presents A December to Dismember. Right on cue. Right on cue, Tim. Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
I'm paying attention.
There you go. Tonight we present our discussion on the 1984 classic, Silent Night, Deadly Night. David, take us out.
All right, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Like we mentioned earlier, this movie had a ton of controversy surrounding it when it was first released. So it came out in 1984, just in time for the holiday season, and I mean, for obvious reasons, the controversy, simply around a killer Santa Claus, killing people at Christmas time. The movie was pulled from the theaters after the first week, but it ended up, of course, over the years becoming a cult classic. Everybody crapped on the movie, from Siskel and Ebert to, all the critics. But, in the end, I guess there's no denying that it's a very effective movie. I mean, it's a little bit of a cheesy early 80s hack and slasher movie. I mean, the only difference between, this movie and, and so many other, movies like it are, of course, the iconic look of Santa Claus, carrying around an axe and killing people on Christmas Eve. So the story takes place 1971, if I remember correctly, and this young boy and his family, they are off to visit the boy's grandfather, who's in a mental. I don't know if it's a mental.
Yeah, it was a mental
institution.
hospital.
It was a mental hospital. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's in a mental hospital. The grandfather's somewhat catatonic. He's not talking, but there seems like they're doing their yearly Christmas routine and visiting, and seeing the guy at Christmas time, wish him Merry Christmas, all that kind of stuff. And this one time, the grandfather grabs the kid when the parents aren't there and basically tells him, that he should be afraid of Santa, if he's not, if he's not a good little kid, and basically puts the fright in the kid. So the kid is after that moment, petrified of Santa Claus, or at least being naughty, and that Santa's gonna punish him or gonna get him. And of course, then we fast forward a little bit to their drive home, and in the meantime, this guy dressed as Santa knocks over a convenience store, violently kills the shopkeeper, and is broken down on the side of the road. And this poor family happens to come across him in his broken down vehicle, and what ends up becoming the catalyst for the whole thing is this man dressed as Santa Claus brutally murders the kid's parents right in front of him, and essentially scars the kid for life, which literally comes back to haunt him, many years later when he's living in an orphanage with his younger brother. So, yeah, that's basically where the movie starts, at least some of the background, and then of course, we fast forward again to, I think it's about a decade later. So now we've transported, to 1984, and the kid is grown up now. He's late teens, early 20s. Got a job. He's hopefully, what looks like on the path to recovery, and a normal kid. And he starts getting flashbacks when he's forced to dress as Santa for the office Christmas party. And these flashbacks just kind of trigger it drums up all the memories of his parents getting killed, of the man dressed in the Santa suit, and he snaps. And the rest of the movie essentially is him going on a killing spree. So, very effective movie. I can understand a lot of the controversy, certainly, because I think this was really the first movie that portrayed Santa, as a homicidal maniac, and the thought of young kids, seeing that image, would just it would horrify them. It would corrupt them. It would, so there's a lot of early controversy surrounding this movie. So,
but do you want to know what I think is dumb about that?
What's that?
Is the fact that it wasn't a homicidal Santa Claus. It was a guy dressed up as Santa Claus. It wasn't the myth of Santa Claus. It wasn't a real beard. It wasn't a real costume. He wasn't magical. It was a guy in a Santa suit who didn't even have the beard all the way up for the whole movie. So, do you know what I mean? Like it was a guy in a suit.
Mm-hmm.
If people can't, I just think people, we're just way too uber sensitive about something so dumb.
Agreed. Besides that, I mean, yes, it corrupted the hell out of me, just like a lot of other horror movies. But what's the real damage that something like this is going to do to somebody if they do see it? It's, I don't know. I agree. I think people are just a little too overly sensitive, period. That's all it is.
Well, I mean, it goes back to, the same old story of, I'll use music as an example. I mean, if I'm in a record store and I see, a record or CD or cassette tape, back in the day that had explicit lyrics and another one that didn't, I'm going to buy the one with explicit lyrics, right? Because that's tempting. Like that's what I want. And, the same could be said with, Silent Night, Deadly Night, renting that, back in the day. I'm looking at the, the VHS shelves and I'm scouring and I'm like, oh, I've already seen Halloween. Oh, I've already seen that. Whoa, what's this? Killer Santa Claus? Santa Claus climbing down the chimney and is holding an axe.
It is an awesome poster. It's an awesome poster. Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, I'm getting that one.
Yeah.
Like that. I'm renting that this weekend. Yeah. Right. And I mean, kudos to the marketing guys. I mean, they knew how to market it. It's just, sometimes the world is full of overly sensitive people, and sometimes they get their way. And this was a case of it, with sensitive people getting their way, and it was pulled from the theaters, and amidst all the controversy. But luckily, over the years, it has gained a cult following, and I think it's very much cemented itself, in horror history.
So give us some thought, Dave. How do you feel about the movie? Talk to us about the movie itself. Not, moving beyond the overview that you just gave us. Talk to us.
I think the movie. I think it's a good movie. I mean, it doesn't have high production values, but I don't think a movie like this needs to, and I don't want that to come across as just because it doesn't have high production values. It's not a good movie. I think it's a very good movie. You can tell that it's limited in size and scope. It's isolated to several locations. I think that it's trying to tell a story. It's a movie that takes itself seriously. A lot of these types of movies, you can tell that they're having fun with the source material, and it's a little tongue in cheek. They're not trying to take themselves too serious. But I think Silent Night, Deadly Night, on the flip side, I think is taking itself very serious. And like I mentioned, before the break, early on, there's a lot of violence in this movie. The opening scene is very traumatic, for the little boy. I mean, he's watching his parents get brutally assaulted and murdered by this man dressed as Santa Claus. And the mother especially, I mean, the Santa Claus attempts to rape her. I mean, rips open her top, breasts flying out. He slits, the mother's throat, and she's laying there half naked in the snow, blood gushing from her slashed throat. And I mean, it's a very visual, it's a very violent movie, and it's that type of imagery, certainly that sticks with the viewer. And of course, you get it, right? I mean, that's what's sticking in the kid's mind, and that's what scars him and what propels him later in the movie. You know what I mean? To lash out and essentially make him snap. So I think it's a very effective movie in its storytelling. It's a simple enough story. The guys. I guess in the end, maybe it's a little bit of PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress syndrome, where he's seen such a traumatic event, and later on in life, it affects him deeply, and it certainly what causes the rest of the story to take place.
Yeah,
my thoughts.
Tim.
Yes, sir.
Too deep?
No. We need to dig deeper. Let's dig into the mind of Tim. Let's dig into
you know what? It was an enjoyable movie. I sat down this morning with a very open mind. Usually when you sit down to watch a movie that was made in the late 80s, late 70s, early 80s, there's like I've said this before, there's a certain type of mindset that I want to get into before I sit down. And I watched it. I've seen it before when I was younger. There was only maybe one or two scenes that I actually remembered when I was watching it. But it's such a simple movie, but the story had such great potential, and it was not realized, at least in my opinion. I think that it would have been far better executed if they focused more on like the psychological aspect of what was going on with Billy. Do you know what I mean? Like we were talking earlier about how this movie is one of a handful that actually show his descent into madness, so to speak. I think that it could have been played up a little bit more.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh no, I'm wearing a Santa outfit. Now I'm Santa and I must kill every girl in the movie with no top on.
Oh, but let's be fair about that for a second. It took more than him just wearing the Santa outfit. He was freaking out over that. But
absolutely.
The moment that he saw the girl getting raped.
Yeah. No. And I absolutely. And I am oversimplifying.
Yes.
But there was I just felt that like when he's in the suit and like it just yeah, you're building up to it, and they took great care to show that he is a damaged little boy. They showed him as when he was in the orphanage and the abuse that he took from Mother Superior, which I don't know about anybody, but I wouldn't have took that shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm having a nightmare, she ties me down to my bed, like, no. Or smacking me with a belt, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Not Tim. But I don't know, like, I don't want to focus on the things that I find negative, because this movie had some fantastic special effects. The killing scenes in it were memorable, which is not something that you can say about a lot of horror movies made back in '84. Like,
True.
There's usually one really good death, but this movie had multiple deaths. We were talking before we went on, Adam, about the guy on the sled.
That's my favorite death scene. I'm calling that my favorite death scene.
That's one of mine too. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like, there was a lot of rape in this movie, and there was a lot of, I don't know. I mean, I liked it. I don't want to give the vibe that I didn't like it. It's just, I felt that there was a lot of things that could have been better executed.
Okay, well,
like, I almost felt like it was like the whole setup was wasted and kind of anticlimactic. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, I don't know. He's just about to, like, you get to the end, spoilers. You get to the end, and he's holding the axe, and he's about to, like, kill Mother Superior, like that bitch that ruined his life. And, like, he gets shot twice, and then says some cheesy line about, you kids can sleep now, Santa's gone. And then, like, I don't know, man, like, it was just, the ending was kind of disappointing until his little brother's, like, staring at the Mother Superior and is like, you were naughty. And then I was just like, okay, the ending was good again. Yeah, it was good. It was good again. But I don't know. I flip-flopped a lot watching this movie. Like, okay. I liked it, and then it bugged me, and then I was like, oh, that was an awesome death. And then, Linnea Quigley's boobs, and then it was awesome again. And then,
they made every 80s movie good. Come on.
Oh, I love her so much. I love her so much.
You heart Linnea Quigley.
I absolutely, like, I just want to give her a hug. No sexual, nothing. I just want to give her a hug. Like, right now, I would give her a hug. Just like, you were so awesome.
She'd be happy to know that too. She loves her fans, apparently. So,
yeah.
So okay, but let me elaborate and talk about that myself a little bit here too, because I got to tell you, I haven't seen the movie in a long time. And when we brought this up as a topic that we wanted to do for conversation for the December to Dismember, wonderful. I was ecstatic because I do remember seeing the movie as a kid, but I don't remember all of the details about the movie. One of the big things that I remembered about the movie was, in fact, the whole idea behind this kid who witnessed the murder of his parents and attempted rape of his mother, nonetheless, at the hands of a man dressed as Santa Claus. So I remember then he goes insane when he's older and basically dresses up as Santa Claus, tries to kill people. But that was pretty much the extent of what I remember of the movie. So I was ecstatic to go back and revisit this. So as I was saying to you guys earlier, I started watching this movie. And when I started watching this movie, I was kind of half working on a couple of projects on the iPad. I was kind of doing some writing, and I'd glance up and I'd be watching the movie, paying attention to it, but still kind of working. And I found that by, like, the end of the movie, the iPad was off and off to the side, and I was just glued to the TV screen, because it really is a good movie. It's a little bit dated, but it holds up really well. The movie, the effects, the acting is not as bad as a lot of movies in that time period. Let's put it that way.
True.
The lines aren't forced. For the most part, the actors did a really good job. We saw Linnea Quigley's boobs.
Woo!
Woo! Got to say that again, right? and you see multiple sets of boobs, but, in different contexts. People dying, people just simply having sex, everything else. The movie itself, though, I thoroughly enjoyed it. This is one of my top and upper Christmas horror movies, and I'm gonna have to make room for this movie every year now, because I mean, I barely have time to watch a lot of movies come the holiday season. I gotta admit, doing this podcast has given me more opportunity to watch movies than the last couple of years have ever just simply allowed.
I absolutely agree with you, Adam. And the fact that I'm able to see movies that I might have passed over, that you guys are like suggesting, like, no, absolutely. This podcast has done wonders to my DVD Blu-ray library. Yeah,
exactly. Well, you know, I get ready to watch a movie and I tell the wife, I'm like, it's homework.
It's research.
It's research. It's homework, baby. And she goes, oh, you, and she goes up and she does her thing. So I'm sitting there watching my movie, and nobody's like, you know, hey, Dad, can we get the TV? No, they're gone. They're doing their own thing. So I'm good now.
Nice.
So it's given me a good reason for that. So the movie itself, I love the fact, and you'd kind of touched on this too, because we had been talking about this before we started the podcast tonight. This is one of the few movies that goes against the grain of what we'd originally discussed with 80s movies. A lot of 80s horror movies, there was a motive behind the killing, but it wasn't like, you know, a huge backstory and then all of a sudden, you know, the payload. A lot of it was just killing started, you find out some details as we go, the plot twist and the ending appears, and boom, Bob's your uncle, and this guy is, you know, he knows you because he was your next door neighbor's dog's babysitter. You know, that was the key to the horror movie. But this one, I really enjoyed the fact that it was a progression of his insanity. You know, he started off as a kid, very traumatic experience that would frig anybody up, you know, period. And then Mother Superior sure as shit didn't help. What a bitch of a nun she was.
I know.
But there was always that one nun that was trying to help him, and she was the one that ended up getting him the job at the toy store, and she kind of really cared for him, and she saw the
Can I mention something? Is
Yes.
that not the worst toy store you have ever seen?
potentially
Ever.
the worst. Potentially, what is it? Ira's
Ever.
Toys. Ira's
Yeah,
Toys.
no, it was the worst toy store I have ever seen, where the front looks exactly the same as the stock room. Like it was, yeah, I made notice of that. Even though it was really cool to see, like, you know, vintage toys on the shelf. Like,
Yes.
I think they had like a vintage Jabba the Hutt in the box, and I was like, oh man, that's awesome.
Well, yeah,
but
when-
like, it was the worst toy store ever.
Totally the worst
And
toy
the
store
store-
ever.
And the store owner at the beginning, he's talking to the other lady, and he's like, he's got a box of toys open. He's like shoving everything back in, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what is he doing? Is he like repackaging stuff and putting it on the shelves? And
You want to know what my favorite part of the movie is, besides Linnea Quigley, is the montage of Billy starting his job, and like the music's playing, he's picking boxes up, and everything's going good for him, and like, you know, it was a great montage. Like, I was just,
Happiness.
yeah, like, you know what, like, everything's gonna be okay.
there's that 80s movie that we all love, you know, like that 80s moment.
Like, you almost expect, like, you know, the executive producers saying, like, you know, we need a montage of some sort. Like, can we put that in the movie? And, you know, that's what they ended up doing.
It was
I
almost like
almost expected Alfonso Ribeiro to jump out and start dancing at any moment.
the only better montage in an 80s movie was from No Retreat, No Surrender.
Yep.
My favorite montage in an 80s
I don't know.
movie.
I think the Rocky montage in I think it was Rocky 3. I think it was Rocky 3 in the 80s. Yeah, that was a good training montage.
They're all good training montages, man.
Every time I watch it, I want to work out.
80s montages, period. We need to do an entire episode just on montages.
Yeah, greatest montage.
Greatest montages.
But the one in this movie was I wasn't expecting it. Like, it came out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden the music hit, and like, it was just him picking up boxes and like
And cutting boxes and
cutting boxes
and
and
noticing
having little
the girl.
conversations with the girl and
and noticing the girl.
yeah.
Very important to note that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, and the best part about it is, and I'll just mention this, like you were saying, is that it was happy. It was almost out of place when it first starts. You know, here he is, and all of a sudden, you know, the nun introduces this. Oh yeah, that would be wrong for a boy to do this job. Here's Billy now, and all of a sudden, you know, he's got like the ripped denim shirt and the pants that are up underneath his chest line, you know what I mean? And he kind of smiles with that blonde hair, and nicely chiseled chin features and everything else. And the guy's like, oh, okay. But it doesn't really
start Monday.
Yeah, you start Monday. But it doesn't really lead up to figure out why the hell his quote-unquote direct report, the asshole, doesn't like him so much. What is it, because Billy's so good at the damn job? And he's happy when he does it?
The guy in the back?
Oh, yeah. No, don't forget, I'll go directly to Mr. Sims over this.
What a little dick.
Oh, what a big dick.
I'm looking up his name right now so I can call him out on being a dick.
You do that while we keep talking.
I think it was Andy. I think it was Andy.
I think it was Andy. Yes, I think it was Andy. Yeah. So, but I really loved it, and I loved the montage, and I love, excuse me, and I loved everything about that whole kind of episode in his life. But yes, the moment that it's kind of like he puts on the suit and he's not quite there with it, and he's not really liking it. But then all of a sudden, this Andy character starts to have his way with
getting rapey.
He's getting rapey with Pamela, and he kind of like goes back to when this happened to his parents, and he takes it upon himself to, get rid of quote unquote Andy, and then what really draws the line, even though he killed this Andy guy. It was kind of like, I did it for you, but then she rejects him.
Yeah.
And that was like, okay, as if it wasn't bad enough, he has reverted to this state of nastiness. She just rejected him for what he did. Boom.
Yep.
That's it. No turning back. He's psycho now.
Yeah, he guts her. That was awesome.
Oh, that was a good scene with the box cutter.
Yeah.
Up, and that's away you go. The movie progresses quite nicely from there. I like a lot of that, but yes, my favorite death scene in the entire movie had to be the sled. So you got the two bullies, they, kick the kids away from their sleds. Yeah, you little punks.
And they didn't even look like they were kids. They were like men.
Yeah, it was like, 23-year-old drunk men that were just.
But you know how 80s guys, they look older than, they didn't look 20 something. They look like in their 40s. Oh, yeah. And can you imagine just going in the woods and taking these sleds from kids?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why I find that funny, but
what are you going to do with that? We're going to go sledding, and then he steals the sleds. And then, so the first one goes down the trail and he's like, yeah, come on down, buddy, come on down. Then the other guy comes down the trail, and who walks out right into the path but Santa with an axe and takes his head off. But the best part is that the guy's at the bottom of the trail going, woo, come on, man, yeah. And then
the look of excitement on his face.
Absolutely childlike in every way.
Glee, absolute glee.
It was beautiful. And then all of a sudden the headless body just kind of comes to a halt at the bottom of the trail, and his face goes from absolute joy to absolute distaste and terror, and oh my god. And then the head rolls after the body.
Yeah.
And then
it was like the greatest day of his life ever, and then the worst day of his life ever.
All in the same breath, right?
Yeah, because he loved that guy. He loved him.
Oh man, we're having a blast.
Yeah.
that was his man. That was his boy.
Yeah. They do that every weekend.
Exactly. Oh man. So I liked a lot about this movie. It was to the point where you hated the characters that you were supposed to hate. You hated Mother Superior. You hated Andy. You kind of felt bad for some of the other people that got involved. Like Mr. Sims really did treat him with some respect, but he ended up dying because, let's face it, Billy's now psychotic. Interesting to note, movie that we talked about last week, the killer referred to himself as Billy. And in this movie, the killer was Billy, and it was all Christmas. So, Billy and Christmas, it's quite
well. And what's also funny is it wasn't the original name of Black Christmas, Silent Night, Evil Night, or Dead. It was something like that.
Ooh,
yeah. It was Silent Night.
Something
Evil Night or something.
Yeah. That's interesting. Because.
Silent Night. Yeah, Silent Night, Evil Night.
Yep. There we go.
That's interesting.
I googled it.
You googled it. That's
I googled
great. So, talking about what we had mentioned earlier too, the whole idea behind the fact that this movie was so heavily shit upon, it did cause a shitstorm. I gotta admit, when I had actually read the trivia about some of the trivia about this movie, and I had heard that Siskel and Ebert had basically read out live on their show the credits of the movie and called out every person in the credits and followed their name with shame, shame, shame. I now totally lack all form of respect for those two guys.
Yeah.
I used to have some respect for them because, you know, obviously they made it somewhere, you know, they had their TV show and they had their articles and they were well respected in the movie communities. But if you're going to be dicks like that, I ain't got no time for you, no respect for you.
Well, see, and that's the thing I can't stand about critics. I mean, we're all critics. We all have opinions about, you know, what we're doing right now is critiquing this movie, right? But, you know, like, who the fuck is Robert Ebert and Gene Siskel? Like, they're just two people with opinions.
Yeah.
They're not like, so, you know, for them to go on their show and like totally discredit, you know, these filmmakers and actors and producers, they made a movie.
Yeah.
What the hell have these guys done? They have a TV show where they talk about movies. Like,
Exactly.
ooh. One thing that I felt that was very interesting when I was looking up some trivia was, believe it or not, this opened the same weekend as the original A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
Which I find so odd that, like, you know, Silent Night, Deadly Night got so much flack, but it opened the same weekend as, like, this iconic child killer. You know, like, I find it so weird.
Well, absolutely. I mean, what would become one of the most iconic horror movies in history, Nightmare on Elm Street, on the same weekend, and this movie, Silent Night, Deadly Night, actually outgrossed it in its initial week.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty damn sure it has to do with the controversy that surrounded the movie. What happens, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but if somebody comes up to you with a protest sign and says, this movie's godless, this is garbage, you don't want to see this, ban the movie, what the hell are you going to do?
I'm going to go see the goddamn movie.
The godless
Exactly.
goddamn movie.
I'm going to go see it. Maybe
I'm gonna
see it twice.
Yeah, maybe even twice. I'll get some popcorn,
Oh, shit.
some
Yeah.
M&Ms, peanut butter ones. Oh, man.
Point
Tonight.
is, they got my business. And the same thing, with almost every movie that's ever hit controversy, I have found a way to watch that damn movie. Ain't nobody going to tell me what I'm not going to watch or what I'm going to watch. That's exactly. So the other thing that I found that kind of pissed me off a little bit here was with everybody who was against this movie and vied to get it released or pulled from theaters. One of them was actor Mickey Rooney. And he was very big in The Voice for having this movie pulled. And what I find really, really funny is that all but like 6 or 7 years later, he appeared in one of the damn sequels, Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, The Toy Maker. And I just kind of found it, you know, a lot of people apparently were calling him just an absolute hypocrite. And I find it very stupid, in my opinion, because, you know, regardless of what you think of the situation, and you were mentioning this a little bit earlier, Tim, when we were kind of talking about this, the movie you said was, it seemed, there was a rumor that the movie wasn't actually being filmed as Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, correct?
No, it was under the working title, The Toy Maker.
That's right. However, even if he didn't know it was a Silent Night, Deadly Night sequel, it was still a horror Christmas movie about toys that were killing kids on Christmas. It still was ruining the whole Christmas life and atmosphere and everything else, but yet he was okay with toys coming to life and killing kids, but he was not okay with a guy dressed as Santa Claus carrying an axe.
Yeah.
There's kind of a fine line of oddity to cross, you know what I mean? I don't really know if I understand that myself.
He probably just did it for the paycheck.
Did it for the paycheck.
Well, I mean, you got to think, you know, Mickey Rooney was huge, you know, long, like back in the 60s, 70s, even the 80s. You get to 91, I don't think he's getting as many roles as he once did. All right, I'll be in a horror movie about Christmas.
Yeah, fine.
I
I'll
agree.
do
Sometimes it's what it boils down to. Sometimes it's just all about the paycheck, and I mean, yeah.
Yeah. No, agreed.
Yeah.
So all in all, though, I liked the movie. I thought it was great. If anybody who's listening has never seen the movie, you're really doing yourself a disservice. It is one of the classic slashers from the 80s, let alone one of the most classic Christmas horror movies and slashers from the 80s. You really need to take the opportunity to see this movie. The sequels, however. Now, I don't want to really spend much time on the sequels, but
I don't think we should spend any time on the sequels except to say don't watch the sequels.
The sequels really go weird. But I'll just mention, you had talked a little bit earlier about the scene at the very end of the movie. Naughty. You know what I mean? With Ricky, his little brother. The only thing that's worth seeing, if you're ever going to see it, and it's not even really worth seeing, so don't take me for that when I say it, is Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2, which is actually a direct sequel of this one. It takes place like 10 years later or whatever. And what happens is that Ricky himself, now with the events of his older brother going nuts and being killed and the whole traumatizing events, goes insane, gets put into an asylum, and he comes out of the asylum, and then he goes nuts himself. And it has spawned one of the internet's most iconic memes or whatever the shit you want to call it. For like years, people were posting this absolute garbage video on the internet. And some people thought it came from the movie Troll 2 when it did not.
Oh my God, that's from that movie?
That is from the second one. So it shows this guy.
The guy screaming? Oh my God, yes. I did not know that.
So this guy comes out with this garbage can, puts it on the side of the road, and all of a sudden this younger guy looks at him and goes, "Garbage day," and blows him away. This was Ricky. That was Ricky from the very beginning of this sequel.
That's right.
And it's just, if anything, it's just so you can see the atrocity that is the sequel, which is basically a lot of the original movie, kind of in the way that they did, like Sorority House Massacre back in the days, like Part 2 or whatever. It was a lot of the first movie kind of rolled into it, flashbacks and shit showing him going nuts.
And Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 and 3 are the only ones that have direct ties to the original because they both contain Billy's brother, Ricky, who was very young, obviously, in the first one, and at the end had witnessed, his brother getting shot and everything else. But Part 4 and Part 5 are completely separate and have nothing to do, just name only, as far as connections.
Well, 5 had to do with the toys, like we talked about. 4, wasn't that the one with that cult? There was like a female police officer.
Yeah, she was she a police officer? I think I've only seen the movie once or twice.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just remember it's got a picture of her on the front of the box to cover art, and it's got like the picture of the knife and but I'm drawing a blank with as far as the content. I know the second one. I watched the second one a couple years ago. Hadn't seen it in a number of years. The third one, wasn't the third one Bill Moseley's in it and he plays Ricky, but he's got like this glass dome protecting his exposed brain. Isn't that Part 3?
Oh my gosh, I think you're right. Because I do recall that Bill Moseley was in one of them, and yes, I do believe that you're right. He played Ricky, I think, in the third one.
And he was like, obviously after having been shot or thought to be dead at the end of the second one, Bill Moseley plays the Ricky character in the third one. But I think he's like most of the movie, he's walking around in some sort of hospital gown, and he has like that glass dome protecting his exposed brain. And he's got some sort of psychic connection. Like, it's real weird, man. It's like if the first two weren't weird enough, especially the second one, I guess the first one is a bit of a classic, but it's kind of the third one that, takes the left turn and, it just, everything kind of starts going downhill even more so.
So Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, better watch out. The comatose Ricky Caldwell reawakens and begins to stalk a blind woman with whom he shares a psychic connection. starring Bill Moseley as Ricky Caldwell. Wow.
Sounds intriguing.
No, it doesn't. I mean, Bill Moseley, yeah, sure. I'd probably watch it if I had nothing else to do, just because Bill Moseley. I love Bill Moseley, but holy crap, man. Holy crap.
And then while you're on there looking it up, look up Silent Night, Deadly Night 4.
Yeah, I'll do
And let's
that.
remind the viewers what that one was about.
Deadly Night 4. So, Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, The Initiation. A reporter investigating the bizarre death of a woman who leaped from a building in flames finds herself mixed up in a cult of witches who are making her part of their sacrificial ceremony during the Christmas season. Okay, so she wasn't a cop, but she was a reporter, and it was a cult. That's right. I remember something in this movie having to do with they were some sort of a creature or something that they put in their belly button. It was weird. Yeah, I seem to recall that now.
Interesting. I have
Reggie-
to rewatch all these. I remember
Reggie Bannister was in it. Damn.
and I see part 4 was actually directed by Brian Usna.
Yes, it was. Look at that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it
Might have
it's
to
almost
rev-
warrants. I've got the DVD, the dual DVD for part 1 and 2 that Anchor Bay came out with a few years back, and then on a business trip down to the U.S., I was at what's that big electronics store in California you used to always
Fry's?
go to?
Fry's?
Yeah, Fry's Electronics. I was at Fry's hunting through the horror section at Fry's, and I found a triple movie set with Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, 4, and 5 on it. So I've got all 5 movies on DVD.
Nice.
So I'm gonna have to. I might have to break them all out. I just watched part 1, but I may have to watch 2 through 5 this holiday season. May have to
Damn.
now.
Damn, I just think that you set a bit of a challenge for us, Dave. I think we might have to.
Yeah. I
Regardless
may
if we're
have to.
doing episodes of it, we're probably going to have to watch the damn movies.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Oh well. I guess I know what I'm doing over the next couple of weeks.
That's exactly, man. That's exactly. Okay. Well, that's not too bad. So, anything else you guys want to add to this wonderful episode that we've pulled off?
I think this movie should be seen by all horror fans because it is a very good horror movie. I'm just getting fanboy-ish. Like I said, I enjoyed it. It's just there's certain things that I would have liked them to touch on a little bit more in depth, maybe execute a little bit better. But all in all, it was fun to watch.
Okay,
Like
so
like I was saying earlier, like there wasn't just one memorable death. There was quite a few memorable deaths in this, and it was all executed really well. The acting wasn't the best. The script wasn't the best as far as the dialogue, but I mean, it was a movie made in 1984. But I mean, I don't know.
okay.
I'm just getting kind of horror fanboy ish. But it had everything. Like you go down the list. It had violence, sex, nudity. A crazy guy in a costume. It was a holiday. Like it meets every one of my expectations for a themed horror movie. Right?
Yep.
I'm just like I said. I'm just getting nitpicky.
Okay. No, that's good. That's good. Dave, do you have anything else to add to this?
I think Silent Night, Deadly Night. It's an iconic movie. It'll always be known. It'll always go down. As one of the most iconic horror movies, simply because of of the Santa Claus tie-in and the controversy that surrounds it. And you know what? Hey, on top of it, it's a decent movie. I thought it was very well done. When I think of Christmas horror, the first 2 movies that pop in mind are Black Christmas and Silent Night, Deadly Night. So,
You mean the first 2 movies that we've done in this year's December to Dismember?
no, and I know we're getting ready to wrap things up, but I think it's worthwhile to mention that a couple years ago, and let me find the exact date. It's 2012.
Oh, you're going to mention what I was going to wrap up with, you bugger.
Oh, okay. I'm going to leave it to you.
All right, cool.
So I'm good with Silent Night, Deadly Night. Certainly, if there are any fans listening to the podcast that have yet to indulge, what are you waiting for? You need to hunt down a copy of this movie, and you need to watch it, and certainly leave your comments on the site. We'd love to hear from you. So,
all right. So much to what David was saying, basically a couple years ago, so 2012 to be exact, we saw the release of a remake for this movie. So for anybody who hasn't actually seen the remake,
Don't.
yeah, I'm gonna say it has a couple of redeeming qualities. One of them being Malcolm McDowell, another one being Jamie King. But beyond that, it's a very uninspired movie. It was actually directed by Stephen Miller. And Stephen Miller has been known for some action movies, basically, is what it came down to. But nothing really huge before then, except for a independent horror film, which kind of took everybody's surprise back in about, I think it was like 2006, 2007, called Automation Transfusion. And it was a zombie flick, and it was really well done, and a lot of people liked it, and it got a lot of, hubbub. And so, a couple years later, he does this movie. What can I really say about it? The guy knows how to direct. The movie was full of some really interesting visuals. I like the Santa Claus as it is in the movie with the mask, and he's got the flamethrower as a weapon. But like I said, it was very uninspired. They called it a remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night, but it doesn't really share almost anything in relationship to the original. Very barely or rarely anything does it actually share. Mm-hmm. So see it, but I would take this remake, Silent Night, I would almost take it as its own movie. Don't compare it to the original, just take it as its own movie. You might like it if you do that, but if you compare it to the original, you're going to look at it and say, this is an absolute shit bomb. It's garbage. There's nothing redeeming about this. I don't know what else to say. So, Dave, do you have anything to add?
I think I do. I think it was... It's not a great movie. I'm not a huge fan of it. But I think that the biggest problem with it is it was unfairly lumped into that whole bracket as a remake to Silent Night, Deadly Night, when it really isn't. And maybe it's just because of the name Silent Night. They certainly could have picked something else, but I didn't realize this until a few years afterwards. So it came out in 2012. I watched it when it came out. I thought, it's an all right movie, but it wasn't anything to write home about. But a couple years ago, I found out that the events portrayed in this movie are actually inspired by true events.
Oh, okay.
Did you guys know this?
No,
I did not. No.
So this is where it gets really interesting, and this is where I can appreciate the movie a little bit more. It's still not a great movie, but I have a deeper appreciation for it. So this is really cool. In 2008, in Covina, California, what was known as the Covina Massacre occurred on December 24th, 2008. And this guy, who worked for a jet propulsion lab, had just received his final divorce papers from his wife, and he snapped. And he dressed up as Santa Claus, loaded up a homemade flamethrower and several 9mm pistols, went to his in-laws' Christmas party, where his now ex-wife was, along with several family members, knocked on the door. He started unloading the pistol on everybody in the house, and then he took out his homemade flamethrower and torched the place along with people inside.
Ooh,
wow.
How fucked up is that?
That's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, I concur.
The person that opened the door was like an 8-year-old girl. Let me just take a quick look. It was I was reading about it earlier. It was a young girl. She might not have been 8, but she was a young girl, and apparently he shot her in the face. Now, she didn't die. She sustained obviously life-threatening injuries, but She recovered. She didn't die from that. But I mean, literally, she opens up the door. Here's this guy dressed as Santa Claus. He shoots her in the face, walks in, and starts unloading on the rest of the house, and then torches the place, like burning people alive with the flamethrower and everything. And they found his body, I guess, the next day or a couple days later at his brother's place. He had committed suicide and shot himself, and was just like, he snapped. And after finding this out, and then thinking back to that movie, it's like it just makes it that much more disturbing that it's based on true crime. And I know we had mentioned this in previous episodes that when true crime is involved and it's the inspiration for any of these movies, it makes it that much more creepy and kind of gets under your skin a little bit, especially this one.
Yep.
And it's so recent. It was 2008 this occurred.
That's so weird. I had no idea.
Okay, so what you're saying is I might have to give this movie another opportunity because, like you said, when you bring in real crime, it tends to put the movie in a different light.
Yeah, for sure.
But that also kind of plays into what I said as well. You shouldn't really think about this movie as a remake to Silent Night, Deadly Night. You should keep it as a separate movie in your mind, and then you might come away liking it. So, yeah. Well,
yeah, I think that's the downfall for sure. Was the lumped into it being a remake and being called Silent Night, and really the only similarity there is the guy dressed up like Santa killing people.
Yeah.
Like
So
if they picked a different name, not much better.
So. The one more interesting thing I'll mention about this before we kind of wrap up, the remake Silent Night was in fact released in movie theaters. However, it had one of the most dismal box offices in many years. Opening weekend grossed no more than $9,672 across the USA.
Wow.
And was only shown on 11 screens total. That's how much they'd actually put into this movie. Nothing went into this flick. And it might have been because, once again, the remake game picking up and people just not excited for it and all this kind of stuff. It was only shown on 11 screens and didn't even make $10,000 in its opening weekend.
That is insane.
For its entire gross in theater on those 11 screens, the entire gross was only $14,567. So its opening weekend was almost the entire gross.
Before we wrap up, I just have something that's bugging me.
Okay, what's up?
We were talking earlier about the actual original 84 version.
Yeah.
And how there was all the protest and all that. But if I remember correctly, that wasn't the first time Santa has been portrayed as a killer in a film.
Probably not, but I think it's just one of the most iconic.
But and this is one of my favorite ones because we were talking about how in previous episodes, how I love anthology horror movies and all that, right?
Oh, God.
One of the original ones. Yeah. Tales from the Crypt, 1972.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The psychotic Santa, I believe it was called All Through the House.
I do believe so.
With Joan Collins. Yeah. And that, it predated it by what? 12 years?
Something 72? Like that.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, 12 years. Was there any That's Ruining Christmas? The image of Santa Claus, peace, love, and blah, blah, blah? No.
Oh, God, no. Well, okay, so...
I believe I forgot that. I love that episode.
I love that.
Awesome.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
I love that sequence of it. It was fantastic. I'm going to bring up one other thing about that, and that was great that you mentioned that. The wife...
Of course it was. I did.
Yeah, exactly. My wife came downstairs while I was watching the movie, and she looks at it and she goes, "Didn't we watch this one last year?" And I looked at her and I said, "No, that was Tales from the Crypt." And I never clued in until you were just mentioning this. Wow. And because I was thinking, that's exactly what happened last night. She's like, "Didn't we watch this one last year?" And I'm like, "No, that was Tales from the Crypt, baby."
No, but I guess the point that I was trying to bring up, because it was just, maybe it was, the wrong movie at the wrong time or something, or I just don't understand why this movie got so much flack. It's not the worst thing that has ever been filmed. It's not the worst. Like, I just don't understand. Because I was reading some of the articles while we were talking about, what these picketers were doing and the protests. And wow.
Nice.
Over a horror movie about this guy that killed people in a Santa Claus outfit. It's dumb.
Well, and the best
Dumb.
part,
People are dumb.
and the best part is, yes, it was part of the Tales from the Crypt movie, and it was so popular, they remade it as one of the episodes in the TV show, which was great, too.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Just the original, but still good.
Oh, yeah, still good. Well, I'd say that was a good episode, good thought, lots of great discussion for tonight. Do you wish... well, I might as well, because this is going to be my episode, the next one that we're going to do. Yay, Adam gets an episode. Yay.
Woo.
Yay.
Woo.
So, I'll
Watch this episode go perfect and nothing wrong with it. And
nothing wrong with it. That's about it. There's
it
always
gets posted on time. And
hey, I post these early most of the time.
I know. That's why I just added. I'm just kidding.
Oh man! So for anybody who's paying attention to what Tim just said, yeah, there's usually some technical issues that we have in the background with some of the direction that we take on this show, and a lot of magical editing. You hardly
magic of
realize
editing.
it. Yeah, exactly. You hardly ever realize what's been going on. So, that being said, the next episode that we're going to be watching, or that we're going to be watching a movie for, and that you will hopefully be joining us to listen to, is going to be Krampus. 2015's Michael Dougherty's Krampus. The movie, which takes place in the same universe as one of our favorite Halloween horror movies, Trick or Treat.
But has it been officially confirmed
Yes.
that it's part of the same universe?
Michael-
Because wasn't that a deleted scene?
Michael Dougherty claims and says flat out in interviews that they take place in the same universe. And yes,
All right.
it has been recently discovered a deleted scene from 2015's Krampus where the kid, the main kid in the movie, offers his cousins some candy from his Halloween stash, and sitting right on the top of the Halloween stash is the lollipop that Sam carries around. It's not bitten, it's the full lollipop, but there's the lollipop that he carries around. There's some other wicked Easter eggs that have come out in the last couple of weeks that we'll talk about those as well when we get into the episode. I personally enjoyed the movie. I'm probably going to actually sit down. I just watched it recently for the first time, and I'll probably sit down and watch it again just to kind of refresh myself for the show. So, yes. So join us in another week, and we will talk about Michael Dougherty's Krampus on the next episode of They Cast from the Coast, a December to Dismember. I'm not gonna make you do that every time, Tim, but that's hella funny, man. That's hella
Hey,
funny.
you know what? I don't feel any pressure to do it every time.
That's fantastic. So,
Good.
so from everybody here at They Cast from the Coast, thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Stay spooky.
Stay spooky.